Okay, I think it's good to get started. I'll keep an eye out if anybody's joining. But for those of you that are with us now, welcome to the virtual reception for our online exhibition by artist Didi Gadjanski. My name is Tabitha Watson, and I'm the director and curator here at Homer Watson House and Gallery. Since this is quite a new format for receptions for us, we thought it would be interesting to do a Q&A style presentation tonight. So I'll be asking Didi questions and then she'll answer them along the way. There will be opportunities for you to ask questions as well. So you can just type them into the chat feature, and then at the end we'll get to questions if we've got time, which I think we should have time for a few questions. So as you are aware, this show features the artwork of Richmond Hill-based artist Didi. She's an honors graduate student from the Ontario College of Art and Design and has been an active participant in the Toronto art scene for the past 30 years with the Toronto Watercolor Society, the Don Valley Art Club, and the Arts and Letters Club, as well as private art galleries. She's participated in over 100 group and solo exhibitions and has won numerous Best in Show awards. In May 2018, she was awarded the gold medal for her work shown at the Toronto Watercolor Society exhibition. We're so grateful to feature Didi's work, even if it's not as we had originally hoped in person, but it is our first fully virtual exhibition, so we're really grateful for her for being so flexible with allowing us to test this out with her show. So without further ado, we'll get started with the questions. So the first question is, what first inspired you to take up painting?
Well, that's a bit of a long story. I grew up in Belgrade in Serbia, and I had quite a number of artists in my family, 3 painters. One was a wrought iron artist, quite elaborate wrought iron artist, really wonderful work. And also I grew up with people who were very much into arts. One of my friends from childhood became the foremost stamp designer in previous Yugoslavia. I also had quite a friendship with a lot of jazz artists, jazz musicians. So all of this inspired me to really look into arts and to be interested in arts early on. When it came to studies, my father thought that, art is not something I'm going to make very much money on. So he suggested I do something different. So I studied first in the field of architecture, and then later on traffic and transportation engineering at University of Belgrade. And as soon as I finished, basically 3 years later, I emigrated to Canada in 1968. And so the art kind of fell by the wayside, and it stayed there until my son went to study at McGill University in Montreal, and I found myself with a lot of free time. So I thought that's my time to go and study art. So I was already in my 40s when I started, and I got into Ontario College of Art, and I basically finished it within 5 years, even though I was doing it part-time. But I would take time through the summer and a month off work, and then I would do 2 or 3 exams in the summer. So it was quite intense, but I fully enjoyed it. I also educated myself along the way with visits to the museums and reading art books and being interested in work of different artists. Also in my heritage, there are a lot of super interesting archaeological sites and artwork that is thousands of years old. So that also was very interesting to me. And later on, when we show through the artwork, you will see that I even did artwork on theme of history of Mexico and so forth. So I'm interested very much in art, history, music, and all of that inspired me to be able to pursue that interest. Now, as I started, I first started working in watercolor, And I fully started painting in about 1984. And so, and then from then on, constantly. So after finishing OCA, I kind of ventured also into teaching. Because of my engineering background, I'm a very structured person. So, you know, not only that I show how to, but I also tend to explain fully. So that was very helpful to a lot of people. So I've been doing teaching all along until present day. So that was my, you know, interest in arts and the approach to studying it fully and later on applying it to my work and also applying it to teaching and mentorship of people.
That's great. So how do you go about being inspired and conceptualizing and creating your artwork?
Yeah, I think inspiration is endless. You can be inspired by seeing something, by reading something, by listening to music, seeing a landscape color. I once explained to some of my students when they asked me about it, I would say, well, you know, if you drive down Don Valley Parkway and you see, you know, a sumac bush or something, I mean, the color in the fall is amazing. So that would be another fabulous thing to inspire you to do something. They said,
yeah,
I hope I'm not on Don Valley Parkway when you drive and be inspired with these colors there. So anyway, so this is very interesting. So inspiration is one thing. Transferring it and expressing it in your painting is another. So we can be endlessly inspired, but doing the actual work and putting it on canvas is something that relates to our ability and capability of doing it and expressing it in the way we want. And that is never, the image is never what we wanted. This is something that everybody, oh my God, that's not exactly what I wanted to do. I didn't. But the thing is, when you are an artist, you have to go with it, recognize what you have done, and then, you know, see whether this is good work or not. Are you going to keep this or not? Regardless of what you had in your mind. What you have in your mind and what you have on canvas is never the same thing. So this is, and this is why it is very hard to paint on demand, to paint for somebody, a commission. Because what they have in mind and what you perceive they have in mind are two different things. So this is something that, but inspiration is interesting. Now, conceptualizing something is more about how you want to present this art. How do you want to present the image that you have in your mind? In what manner? Is it going to be very realistic? Is it going to be semi-realistic? Is it going to be kind of like, you know, a group of 7 landscape, or is it going to be something that is going to be very abstracted, starting from what inspired you? These are the things where concept comes into play. So creating artwork is quite complicated, actually, because you have to consider so many things. You have to consider the size of shapes, you have to consider the line thickness, you have to consider the color, the light and dark, and everything has to be like synchronized. You have to keep going around it, around and around, judging whether this is all being done in a good manner, is it representing what you want to say? Because we have to zero in on what is important that we want to say in this work, rather than making just a picture that is like a photograph. That is a skill, absolutely, and there are people who do it wonderfully, but it is not probably a very creative expression of things. It's more a technical expression of a good technique rather than expression of your creative ability. So this is something that is, a little bit tricky.
Okay, so on that note, what inspired you to create this body of work that we have as part of our virtual exhibition?
Okay, so I call this body of work last 5 years, because that is exactly what it is. I paint generally in series of paintings. So I'll have a series of landscapes, and I'll do maybe 20 or 30 landscapes. And then I'll have a series of florals or series of, abstract paintings, whatever. In this particular body of work that we have on internet for the gallery, I have divided it into sections of parts of these a series of paintings. So there is a part of landscapes, there is a part of florals, there is a part of abstraction. But my work is basically never fully realistic lately. I have done things before, of course, as we will see in the examples, but at the present time, I'm more interested in relationship of shape and line and color in a more abstract way. So this is what, and then the last few pieces in, especially with florals, it's more of a play of texture and drips and line and simplify shapes of florals and stuff, things like that. So this is all about creativity, about how I want to present it in the end. So and also now I'm doing something different, that it's a combination of, say, geometry and organic images. So this is something that I'm very much interested in lately. And this is how these different series came into play. And I wanted to show that because this is my first show in Kitchener area, and I thought this would be interesting to see in person, which is not happening now.
Yeah.
But it would be interesting for people to see that I have done different things through the years. So it is kind of like a retrospective of last 5 years, more than a concrete body of work for this one particular show, and all is about that. So I thought that would be a good representation of work. And that is how this particular, number of works came to being.
Yeah, I think you can really see your sort of evolution. You kind of flow into each different style as it goes on. It's quite interesting to see the whole 5 years rather than just one section. So speaking about your work, we already kind of mentioned that you do tend to change styles as you go, but what media do you find you tend to use most often?
Currently, I am most often using acrylic and then oil. But as I started painting, I basically started first with watercolor. And you can see that in this first image, which is a watercolor floral made with watercolor and ink. Do you have it?
Yeah, just give me 1 second. I'll bring that up for you. There we go, share screen. And I'll just make that full size.
Okay, so I see your whole computer
just
screen.
Getting that big presentation. There we go.
Okay, so this, for example, is just a small sample of watercolor and ink, a very fast approach on Yupo paper, which I love working on because it is so actually, in one way, easy, in another way, difficult to work with because it doesn't absorb any water. any liquid. So you have to reduce liquid dramatically when you paint watercolor on Yupo, but I use it also in acrylic, which we will see later on. So this is something that I did quite a lot. I like the freedom of flow of color, because, and also when you put the ink in, it kind of tends to spread around. But the latest work are the next two images that are actually quite abstract images with just the shape and transition of color. And I love that kind of play, and I do this quite a lot. On the next one is the orange one from the same series. So this is something that, this particular painting I got also award for at Toronto Watercolor Society. This is absolutely watercolor, no gouache, watercolor on Yupo paper. But watercolor is done very heavily on Yupo paper. So it kind of sits there solidly. And I love doing that kind of stuff. Originally, when I worked in oil, I first did a lot of classic approach to oil, which is in next image, and as a traditional kind of approach to oil, still life, with just kind of zeroing in on one area and playing down everything else. So it's more loose approach, but also quite realistic in the area. And the next one, also the floral, also oil, done in on linen, and the classical still life, which later on I started exploring a little bit more in oil, and I started doing figures. First with just blocking out image of the, not really, it's not a portrait, it's just a figure, so no detail, very simplified color palette, and very simple image with very few shapes, which is really important when you want to simplify. You don't want to make a hodgepodge of images, of shapes. After this, I had done something where I started painting and then destroying the image in a way of a scrape. So this is something that I'm doing quite a lot lately. It's kind of construction and deconstruction. So you first do the image and then you start either covering part of it with drips, or you scrape it, or you kind of obliterate a lot of it. And it's a way of expressing, almost like, not everything is, you're saying not everything is perfect, things are, okay in life, and then things are not. And image is fine, and then image is not fine. So this is something that I love doing, and I think it represents our approach to everything. You first build something and then you destroy it. We people are like that. So this is kind of reflection of that kind of thinking and that kind of philosophy. After this, I have the last couple of years, I have done a number of images in oil that are actually quite abstract geometric images. So first I've started by doing it in kind of sharp kind of line, sharp outline around the things. But then I thought, no, I think I prefer it to be loose, to just freehand geometric shapes and just simplify image. These images are not very large. They're like 10 by 12 inches or something like that. But I love that kind of texture and the scrape and looseness of it, and simplification of it. The next one also is a very small image, and this was inspired by a wall I saw in Alhambra in Granada. And these vertical lines that you see in here, I kind of implanted it in my mind. And for some reason, I'm doing this now very often. And you will see that being repeated in many works. I looked at this photograph that I did of this wall, and I'm just totally fascinated. I put it on my iPad the other day again. I'm going to do something else with it. So, and also the texture, when you look at this, it kind of also have that, I feel, image of a wall. You know, there is something of it, that texture is almost like cement is kind of being destroyed in a way. Mm-hmm. And this is very often the case that I just love this old stuff, old buildings, history, anything to do with the past. I'm totally into it. I have no idea why, but I am. So I also very often work in encaustic. Unfortunately, my studio doesn't ventilate that well, so I can only do it in summertime. So the next image is actually inspired by my hairdresser, and she is here in encaustic on textured surface. Quite a lot of layers of encaustic. I love working with it, but it is, you know, if you are putting in oils and paint and pigment and all that, it can be toxic. So I'm very careful in working with it. The next one is also an encaustic. It's only about 16 by 20 inches, but it's kind of a very loose landscape, and with very simplified palette of colors. I have done a number of encaustics. They always go. I just sold to one collector 2 pieces, and they were quite abstract pieces with the collage and encaustic material on the same surface. The next one, we are here now starting with acrylics. This is acrylic on board, and it has very textured surface. And very often, if I start with acrylic, I tend to make quite a nice texture on surface before I start painting. And this texture usually done with pumice and with gesso and gel. In this case, I also have tissue paper on this. So it gives me opportunity to create surface texture that can very hardly be done just by paint and brush. As soon as you have texture, the image starts looking a little bit more complex. Now, personally, I don't like very textured, very rough surfaces. There's something about it that I don't do. But I scrape in my images and do all kinds of things, but not to be raised dramatically or have that very, very textural raised surface. So this one is with tissue. The next one over is an image on Yupo paper, and this has been completely done with the printing roller. All lines are with printing roller. This is only about 22 by 26 inches. And the image also has some application of gold leaf on it. Just experimentation. The next one here is an interesting image. I'm not the person to paint religious images, but I was in Arizona and starting to paint one day, and I started to do some doorway, a portal, you know, and then all of a sudden I had starts of a body, and I continue on that, and then I thought I don't like it, so I poured the gold metallic paint over it, you know. And after I finished and had with my friends sit down to have a drink, I realized it was Good Friday. And I painted this image on a Good Friday. I thought, this is ridiculous. Like, how did that happen, you know? In any case, I kept the painting. I didn't. So it's now in Serbia with the collector. The next one is also an image where you can see quite a drastic application of collage in this, and then painted an image on top of it. And this collage is done with Japanese paper. What I pay attention always to is that I integrate it fully into the image without having to see a very sharp outline of the collage. I want to just see the texture, but I don't want to see the shape of the collage applied to the surface. So this is very important to me, how I go about it. I have done quite a number of figurative paintings, and right now I'm trying to do some larger, this is 30 by 30 inches, but I'm now doing some 36 by 36 stylized images of women with coverings on the faces. My God, it's like I predicted this mask thing, so I didn't include the image here, but that's what I'm doing. So the next image is next image is something that also acrylic. This is done on canvas, where I lay the canvas on the table and I paint it all with roller. Okay. The whole thing, the lines, the scrapes, everything is done with roller. And then I let it dry quickly, and sometimes even with hair dryer. And because acrylics dries on the outside first, and you still have the wet under, when you dry it quickly with the dryer, it will crack the shell on the outside. And this, what you see here, is that effect achieved by doing this thing. The next one is a similar image that I also did with the roller, and I pour paint directly onto the image, and then I roll it out into the image that I want to achieve. Of course, you can go over it, but this type of image I do very quickly, because I don't want to think about it. I find when you start thinking about it, you start being either too particular about something, or too realistic, or too something, which I don't want. So I do this very quickly, and hopefully it will turn out. If it doesn't turn out, another image is coming on top of it, and that's the end of the story. Okay, next one is the same. It's all that series. They're all the same size. And again, just drips and then roller, and the trees are done like that and everything. So this is something I really enjoy doing very much. In contrast, these are images 16 by 20. But in contrast, the next image is 3.5 by 9 feet. And this was done for a client here in Richmond Hill. They wanted a very large, simplified, abstracted landscape. And this is what I did. And because of, I have a van, but the 9-foot image will not fit. So I have done it in 2 sections. And also the client wanted to place it in a particular position in the room. And there was a short wall on the right-hand side. So I thought if they didn't want to have it together, they could put it on 2 different walls, and then have images that are totally related and same, so it would not be crowding the space. Because this is another thing. When you have very large paintings, you have to, I feel, you have to have a rest area. Otherwise, with simple color, with simple tonality, because otherwise they become overpowering in a space, and that if you have too many shapes. So this is one of those images. The next image is from the series that we have, that I have wanted to put in the gallery, and this is one example of a base where I have texture. I have application of paper wrinkled on purpose underneath. And then this kind of relationship, this concept of having geometry and organic thing overlapping each other. So I like that. Again, the stripe, you see, is from that image we had before in the small oil. And this is the stripe that influenced me from this wall in Granada, in Spain. So this is something I'm repeating now in quite a few images and totally obsessed with it.
Mhm.
So and also, you see, this is a fair size painting. This is 3.5 by 4 feet, and it is a very simple painting. So you can even have that in a small space, and it will not be overwhelming because of simplicity of background and because of only area of detail is only in one general area. So that is kind of focused in. The next image is something also that I do often. It's a drip. So this is that type construction and deconstruction where I, paint an image and then I drip on it and I paint again over top of it and I drip again. And so it's a process of working with it. So also it kind of looks incomplete. I find that, again, in our life, a lot of things are incomplete or they're hard to come to a completion. So this is another thing. And also simple, very simple kind of color scheme, green, pink, white, and then the orange to just give it a little bit of a focus. And in case of this particular, because it is a square painting, 3 by 3 feet, I sometimes tend to put a focus of attention in a square painting in the middle, which I think it works in a square. It would not probably work in a exaggerated rectangle or something like that. So this is something that I am prone to do in and this acrylic also is done on a little bit of a textured background, and then then you apply with the painting knife some of these white flowers, they already, because of the texture, they start taking shape, regardless of what you do to it. So this is something that I very much enjoy and do it repeatedly. Now, flowers in particular I am interested in doing it in this manner because flowers are something where you need to give them structure. You have to make a shape of it. And then when you deconstruct it, it's obvious. To me, it works for something like that. If you're just, pouring paint regardless, then I'm not sure that would always work. I mean, yeah, it works sometimes, but probably not always. The next painting is, again, play of very loose field, almost geometry in the back, and then the flowers on top. And also all painted with the roller. This is on Yupo paper, again, and it's only about 22 by 26 inches painting. I've done a lot of these because I like to experiment. What about if this is the background? What about if that is the background? What if I change the shape of flower and so forth? So this is very interesting to me to do on constantly. And if I haven't painted in a while and I need to get into it, I will do something like this and start painting in very loose manner, invented flowers, but you have to say, yes, it's a flower. So this is something that I enjoy doing. Next painting is a large painting. It's about 4 feet by 6 feet, yeah. And I have started with almost like a landscape of a rock with the water underneath. And then I thought, oh, I really want to, deconstruct this. So I poured another layer of paint on top of it and I quite liked it. And this is something that I would like to repeat, maybe even bigger, maybe 8 feet by 5 feet, 2 pieces together, you know. So that would be, I find that painting large gives you a certain freedom of movement, a certain freedom of application of paint, you know, freedom of movement. When you paint with the whole arm from your shoulder, rather than you paint like drawing or writing with your 3 fingers or something, you know, the painting feels different. And so I totally enjoy painting large pieces, to the point that my studio is now clogged with it. So I think I need to find some clients to come and get them. But I enjoy doing them no matter what, you know, it doesn't matter. You paint for yourself. You don't paint always just to please somebody. You paint images that you want to paint. You paint something that you feel strongly about. If someone else likes it, that's a super bonus. That's excellent, you know. So next one here is something that I painted. I painted these are 3 by 3 feet. And there was a series of acrylic paintings on cotton, on a canvas, that were inspired by architectural elements. At one point of time, I painted a lot of street scenes, very loose street scene on Yupo paper with roller, everything, and drawn with roller and applied paint. Because again, why with roller? Because that you cannot be precise. So just because I paint with roller, that means it's going to be a bit of a deconstructed image right away. So this totally inspires me to do the work. So this one, because I studied also architecture, I love historical architecture. So I thought, okay, maybe ionic column swirl would be something that I would apply and then repeat it, and then repeat part of it somewhere else and construct an image that way. So this is something that I fully enjoy. So this was a series of paintings. So last summer, a client bought 4 of them and displayed them together in a same space. So I thought that look same color, same combination of color used differently. So that was a nice display. The next painting again is a play on geometric shapes. This is 7 feet long by 2 feet high, and a triptych. And again, a very loose geometry that I just love working with and playing with. And this is again something that I design first a little bit more in a way of color rather than in definite shape. I very rarely make a sketch or a drawing before I paint. I only do it if I'm doing very large paintings, because I don't want to be wasting paint there unnecessarily. So in that case, I only design areas of light and dark, darkest dark and the lightest light, and so that I can keep that open. Other than that, I don't do. This particular thing doesn't have a darkest dark. Darkest dark is probably almost like just near medium value. And that is an interesting kind of composition to make, which I don't do very often. I like dark colors. So the next painting will show you that. That's again on Yupo paper done with roller. And I have here extreme light and dark. And also, as you can see, area around the focal is very loose without very strong edge or line. And then you have the focal area with a vertical dark lines, as you can see again, and the orange little squares in it. So this is where we are attracting the viewers' attention into that area. The next painting is a site-specific painting, again, for a client. They had these niches and they called me up and wanted to do some abstract paintings. So I did 2, and they are the same size and with application of gold leaf on. So this is one, and the next one is the pair. So they're on each side of the doorway. And I like this challenge. And when I do this, I usually tell the clients, I will do it. If you like it, fine. If you don't like it, you don't have to take it. Because again, abstract, like you don't know what they wanted, and I'm painting my own image. So hopefully they will like it. So in this case, they liked it. So that worked out okay. But I love doing this. This is very simple painting. One challenge here is that it's extreme vertical. So when you have extreme vertical, it is a bit tricky compositionally to do, and I think this worked out quite well. It's very, very, very simple. The next painting is a detail of a painting that I did on history of Mexico. A friend of mine, 2 friends of mine and I traveled to Mexico, went to a wedding, and we were guests in this amazing hacienda that Hernan Cortes built in 15-something. So this was super interesting place that inspired us. So a friend of mine painted the walls of Mexico, and I painted images more based on history of Mexico. So this is part of this, inspired by some of the images in archaeological museum in Mexico City. The next one is also from that series, and it also gave me opportunity again to drip. And in this case, the drip is totally justified, because what happened down there is absolutely atrocious, how the people were treated at that time and the conquest on South America. So here is, you know, a part of conquistador with, you know, the drips on, sort of like blood, sorry to say, but this is it. It is what it is. So in any case, both Michel Latarte was the other artist in this show, and both of us had quite an attention of the Mexican media for this show, and it was shown on Mexican television and in a number of Mexican newspapers. So this was totally unexpected. You know, we just did it for our interest, and then they showed up at the gallery downtown Toronto, and they wrote about it and took images of it. So that I enjoyed very much doing it. So I think that's the most important thing, that you enjoy what you do, and sometimes also I want to say is very important that we work maybe with friends, with artist friends, not together in the same room, but maybe on the same theme, and then it is such a surprise what happens, how we all perceive image one and the other. So this was one of those kind of collaborative exhibitions. The next image is a landscape, which is a very, very simplified landscape. And I love doing them and very simple color combination as well. So I love doing them. And also I find I'm interested in frame around it. Not the frame, physical frame, but the frame on the image itself. I like that kind of okay, the landscape is now showing itself all of a sudden out of this canvas. So I think this is something that, you know, a lot of artists are exploring this, and I find that also quite interesting, and we'll probably do this again. So this is what we have for these samples, and then later on we'll show the last image when I will talk a little bit about what I'm doing next.
Okay, so we're a little bit tight on time, so I think I
Yes.
might jump to, we noticed that particularly in the exhibition, the virtual exhibition that you have with us, floral motifs are a regular theme. Is there a reason for that? Do they have a particularly special meaning or representation to you?
Yes. As I mentioned before, I think that a floral motif, in my case, they give me opportunity to construct and deconstruct with something that is close to all of us.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not something that I'm inventing shapes to be flowers occasionally, but on the other hand, it's recognizable as a flower. So this is what I think. This is also what I did with street scenes, where I, kind of, as I said, I deconstructed immediately when I painted. So this is something that I'm interested in, and I'm choosing floral or street scene to be able to show that deconstruction in a very clear way. Mm-hmm. So, and also I find the florals give you opportunity to use color. And I love using color, I think all artists are interested in color. At some point you may want to say, no, I'm going to start painting black and white, but I think in the end you will sneak in a little bit of yellow or red or something else into it and make it more interesting. So in any case, also I think I am not very much a painter of content in a great way, I'm not. I'm more a painter of things that is more decorative and simplified, but not really, I don't have a political cause that I want to show in my paintings or anything like that. So painting flowers or something inspired by nature or something inspired by music will give me that opportunity, to show that simplified image that I'm interested in.
Okay, so what's next? Do you have a body of work planned or in progress?
Well, usually, in the next thing is kind of progression. So, for example, the body of work that I did, the last body of work that I did for your gallery, for Homer Watson, with say image that we showed, image number 21, which was shown on the website as well. Mm-hmm. The lily on geometric background, that is something that I'm using to now go next step. So the next step is this painting here. You can show that, yes, go to 21, yeah. Okay, so that inspired me to go next step. So just the other day, I painted a painting. This is a 3 feet by 6 feet, and you can go to the last image. And this is again continuation of the the last one, yeah. So this is continuation of the geometry with black line. In this case, it turned out almost a square, and in some cases, and then much softer transition of background color with line on. I'm not sure that this image, I haven't signed it. I'm not sure this image is completely done. I may obliterate part of it again, but as you can see, this is complete continuation in a different way. So now the image will have certain elements of previous design, but also the colors will change a little, and the image is going to be elongated now rather than close to a square. So all of these changes in order to achieve different effect. And also in here, the transition of color in the background is much, much softer, where you have a lot of line. Where in the other image, the line was created by abutting shapes. Here, the line is created by drawing it. So, right. So this is the next kind of series that I want to do.
Excellent. So we're getting close to the end here, and we do have a question from the viewers. So we thought we
Okay.
might have the opportunity to answer that, and then we will finish up for the evening. But
Okay.
I'm just going to get Sydney to ask the question. So
this question comes from Svetlana. And what is your favorite style as an artist?
My favorite style. Do you mean my style or the style of a favorite painter? In any case, I'll say both.
Sounds good.
Yeah, one of my favorite painters are the modernists of the 50s and 60s in the US. I like that work, and I love the either simplification or extreme busyness, which becomes a pattern. I like that. On the other hand, color-wise in that, one of my favorite painters was Sir Lawrence Alma-Tadema, English painter, Romanticism, because I love his colors. So this is something I like to see. My son the other day went to see Van Gogh show down in Toronto on the projections, you know, and he invited me. He said, "Can you come with us?" I said, "No." Because that busyness, he's an amazing painter, no doubt, but that busyness of shapes and line, I cannot cope with that. It's you know, it's that kind of, so I go for much simpler styles, simpler images, simpler approach to art, and I think, you know, sometimes it's good not to get hung up on a painter and try to emulate him, because he already does it better than you can ever do. I mean, it's done. So it's better to explore your own creativity and do some interesting stuff on your own rather than, you know, really. But we certainly can learn a lot from previous artwork.
Oh, there's a part 2 to this question.
Yeah, just to kind of follow up on that, what is your favorite technique? I know you mentioned quite a few, but do you have a favorite? Also from Svetlana.
Yeah, favorite technique. Really, just applying color on textured surface, not drastically textured surface, but textured surface, applying color by pouring on, by moving that color by any means you can achieve. I am not a purist. I don't believe in just, oh, everything has to be just so. I believe in achieving what you want to achieve in your image by any means, whether you want to apply the carpet on top of it and get the texture out of it, whether you want to get a stencil and put a bit of it on and then overlap it with something else and so forth. Absolutely, whatever, and I like doing that. In here, for example, I have poured paint on and then brushed it on with the sponges and with brushes, and then the lines have been poured directly out of a small opening on the bottle directly onto the canvas. So nothing, and I find that sort of thing, that is more interesting line than if I had taken a brush and started making meticulous line. You see what I mean? Mm-hmm. So whatever you can do to achieve the image, absolutely. Follow your instinct.
Excellent. Well, we're just coming to the end now, so I think we will wrap it up for tonight. I know we were talking about where can people find your work online, and if they want to purchase it. So at the moment, Dee Dee's website is under construction. So if you would like to purchase any of the pieces that you see on the virtual exhibition, or any of the pieces that may be available from the discussion tonight, you can find the contact information on our website in the virtual exhibition link. It's just right at the bottom. Or if you can't find it there, just feel free to get in touch with any of us at the gallery, and we'll be happy to put you in touch with Dee Dee for purchasing. But thank you, Dee Dee, for sharing information about your process and about the exhibition that you've got with us. So we'll have that on for a few months still. So if you haven't seen it yet, I'd encourage you to go check it out on our website. And then hopefully at some point in the future, we might be able to feature your exhibition in real life.
Well, I certainly am very thankful to Homer Watson Gallery and to you personally for all the work you have done on my behalf in these really hard times for artists, for anybody in the country, for exhibiting or doing work in general. And I'm very honored to be able to have this conversation with you and to give people a little window in what I do and how I think about it. So thanks very much again, and good luck with your work here.
Thanks, and thanks for everyone who joined in. We'll be posting the video on the website and via our YouTube channel, so if you missed any parts of it or if you wanted to rewatch any sections, you can do that through there.